I'd pay $100,000 to never see your face again. Her words sliced through the conference room. 23 executives from our London office stared at their notebooks, their coffee cups, anywhere but at me. The silence felt like cement hardening around my feet. Vivica Harlow, my manager of 5 years, stood at the head of the table, her pearl necklace catching the fluorescent light as she practically spat the words. Her presentation slides glowed behind her, showing the quarterly numbers I'd spent 3 sleepless nights fixing after she'd completely botched them. I said I would pay $100,000 to never see your pathetic, hovering face again, Nora. Do you understand me? My hands trembled under the table. 5 years. 5 years of covering her mistakes. 5 years of taking her late-night calls. 5 years of apologizing to clients when she failed to deliver. 5 years of watching her take credit for my work. And now this, because I'd quietly corrected a critical error in her presentation 10 minutes before the meeting, saving her from international embarrassment yet again. I felt 23 pairs of eyes finally shift to me. Waiting. Everyone expected me to do what I always did. Lower my head, whisper an apology, and continue being the perfect assistant. Instead, I looked directly at Vivica and said, "Deal." The room went so quiet you could hear the air conditioning hum. "What did you just say?" Vivica's perfectly lined lips barely moved. "I said deal, $100,000. I'll take it." I stood up, my chair rolling backward and hitting the wall. I didn't even flinch at the sound. Something had broken inside me, but it wasn't me that was broken. It was the chains. "You can have my resignation letter in an hour." That was 6 months ago, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Hi, I'm Nora Winters. I'm 34, and until recently, I was senior project coordinator at a prestigious international consulting firm, the kind that reshapes global corporations and makes headlines when they announce new partnerships. If you're watching this, wow, I never thought I'd be sharing this story publicly, but here we are. If you relate to any part of what I'm about to tell you, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. I'm curious, where are you watching from? And has anything like this happened to you at your workplace? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one. Let me back up. I need you to understand who Vivica Harlow was and who I was before that day in the conference room. Vivica was what people call unstoppable. Youngest female partner in the firm's history. Harvard MBA. Featured in business magazines under headlines like 30 Under 30 and Women Reshaping Business. She had this way of walking into rooms that made everyone straighten their posture. She wore exclusively black, white, and blood red. Never a hair out of place. And me? I was her secret weapon. The person who made her success possible. When I joined the firm straight out of business school, I was assigned to Vivica's team. She quickly realized I had a gift for spotting problems before they exploded and fixing them quietly. Within 6 months, she requested me as her dedicated coordinator. "We're going to do great things together, Nora," she told me, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. "I see potential in you." What she really saw was someone she could use. The first time I saved her was 3 months in. She'd submitted a proposal to a major airline with pricing that would have lost our firm millions. I caught it at 11 p.m., recalculated everything, and had a corrected version on her desk by 6 a.m. She never acknowledged it, just took the new document to the meeting. The second time, she'd forgotten about a crucial deadline for a government contract. I stayed up for 38 straight hours, putting it together while she was at a charity gala. When the contract was approved, she sent a company-wide email thanking the team for their support. The third time, she blamed me for missing a client call that she'd actually slept through. I apologized to everyone and rescheduled. She later told me, "That's why I keep you around, Nora. You're so good at falling on swords." By the 23rd time, that day in the conference room, I'd become nothing but a shadow, a ghost who existed solely to make Vivica Harlow shine brighter. My mother had died the week before that meeting. I had asked for 2 days off to attend the funeral in Glasgow. Vivica had said, "We have the London presentation. Can't your family postpone it?" I went to the funeral. I flew back the same night. I stayed up until dawn, fixing her presentation. And then she said she'd pay to never see my face again. When I walked out of that conference room, something changed. It was like I'd been underwater for 5 years, and suddenly my head broke the surface. I could breathe. I could see clearly. I went straight to my desk and began writing my resignation letter. But as I typed, a different idea started forming. $100,000 to never see your face again. Her words kept echoing, and I thought, what if I took her up on that? What if I made sure she had to pay? Not just with money, with everything. Vivica Harlow had built her entire career on my silent competence, on my willingness to be invisible. What would happen if I simply stopped being invisible? I deleted my resignation letter and opened a new document. I titled it, The Harlow File. For 5 years, I'd kept records of everything. Not because I planned revenge, I was just methodical by nature. Every late-night email where she asked me to fix her mistakes. Every time she took credit for my work in writing. Every manipulative message. Every altered document. Every client she'd mistreated when no one important was watching. 23 critical incidents where I had quite literally saved her career. All documented, all dated, all saved in multiple locations. I hadn't realized I was building a case. I was just being Nora thorough, detailed, precise. I began organizing the evidence chronologically. The altered budget reports. The client presentations she'd claimed as her own. The times she'd directed me to backdate documents. The inappropriate comments about clients that I'd recorded during our prep sessions. With her knowledge. To help me prepare better, I'd always said. By midnight, I had a 40-page document detailing 5 years of corporate manipulation, credit stealing, and occasional fraud. Nothing major enough to be criminal. Vivica was too smart for that, but enough to destroy her reputation and career if it ever came to light. I closed my laptop and took a deep breath. I wasn't going to use this, not yet. It was insurance. The next morning, I walked into her office without knocking. She looked up, surprised. I never entered without permission. I've reconsidered my resignation, I said calmly. She leaned back in her chair, a small, victorious smile playing at her lips. I thought you might. Everyone has their moment of rebellion, Nora. Even you. I'd like to propose a transfer instead. To the Singapore office. Her smile faltered. The Singapore office was our firm's fastest-growing branch. It was where careers were made. That's not possible, she said flatly. You're needed here. I've already spoken to Darius Chen. Darius was the head of Singapore operations and a long-standing rival of Vivica's. He's been trying to recruit me for 2 years. He's prepared to make a formal offer. That was partially true. Darius had mentioned once that I'd be an asset in Singapore. I had emailed him at 3 a.m., and he'd responded enthusiastically by the time I arrived at the office. You went behind my back? For the first time, I saw genuine shock on her face. I'm exploring my options, but I recalled your generous offer yesterday. What offer? She genuinely didn't remember. $100,000 to never see my face again. I'm prepared to accept those terms, with conditions. She laughed, but it sounded hollow. You can't be serious. That wasn't an actual offer. I have a meeting with HR at 11 to discuss my transfer. I thought you might want to know first, as a professional courtesy. I turned to leave. Nora, wait. Her voice had that commanding edge that usually made me freeze. Let's discuss this reasonably. You're overreacting to a momentary frustration. We all have bad days. I faced her again. My conditions are simple. You support my transfer to Singapore with a glowing recommendation. You include a relocation bonus of $100,000, exactly the amount you offered. And you never contact me directly again. Or what? Her eyes narrowed. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. She was smart enough to connect the dots. If I went to Singapore under Darius's wing, all her manipulations would eventually come to light. Darius would use anything he could to undermine her position. She knew how thorough I was with documentation. I'll consider it, she finally said. The transfer request needs your approval by the end of day. I've already drafted the recommendation letter for your signature. I placed a folder on her desk. The relocation bonus can be processed through HR as a retention incentive, given my 5 years of service. I had thought through every detail. every possible objection, every corporate policy she might use against me. As I walked out, I heard her mutter, "When did you grow a spine?" The truth was, I'd always had one. I'd just been carrying her weight on it for so long that I'd forgotten how to stand tall. The transfer was approved by end of day. The relocation bonus, exactly $100,000, was processed within the week. Her recommendation letter described me as irreplaceable and a critical asset to the firm's global operations. 2 weeks later, I was on a plane to Singapore, watching London disappear beneath the clouds. I should have felt victorious. Instead, I felt hollow. Because this wasn't revenge, this was escape. And Vivica Harlow deserved more than to simply lose me. She deserved to lose everything she'd built on my broken boundaries, on my stolen work, on my sacrificed time. When I landed in Singapore, I had a message from Darius. "Welcome to the team. Dinner tonight to discuss your role?" Over exquisite chili crab and tiger beer, Darius explained that he wanted me to lead a new initiative connecting our Asian and European operations. "Your experience with Vivica's clients is invaluable," he said, "and your reputation for problem-solving precedes you." I nearly choked on my beer. My reputation? "Nora, everyone knows you're the real genius behind Vivica's success. We've just been waiting for you to realize it too." That night in my hotel room, I couldn't sleep. Not because of jet lag, but because I realized I'd made a fundamental error. I'd removed myself from Vivica's world thinking it was the ultimate revenge. But in doing so, I'd also removed the possibility of justice. I'd taken the money and run. I'd let her continue her pattern with the next unsuspecting assistant, the next Nora. I opened my laptop and stared at the Harlow file. What would happen if this information reached the right people? Not as a vindictive leak, but as a carefully presented case study in corporate manipulation. My phone buzzed with a text from a number I didn't recognize. "Missing you already. The new girl is useless. Call me when you land." She couldn't even last 2 weeks without me, and she directly violated our agreement not to contact me. That's when I knew. Leaving wasn't enough. The money wasn't enough. Vivica Harlow needed to experience what it felt like to have everything taken away, just as she'd taken from me for 5 years. I looked at the time. It was 3 a.m. in Singapore, 7 p.m. in London. I opened my email and began composing a message to 3 people: our CEO, the head of HR, and the head of the ethics committee. The subject line read, "Pattern of concern, documentation, regarding Vivica Harlow." My hands hovered over the keyboard. Was I really going to do this? Was I ready to tear down someone else's career? Then I remembered my mother's funeral, how I'd sat alone in the back of the church because I'd had to catch the last flight back to London. How I hadn't even been able to stay for the reception where my cousins shared memories and photographs. I remembered the 23 critical saves, the countless weekends, the sleepless nights, the panic attacks in bathroom, stalls between meetings. I began typing. "I am submitting this documentation not out of malice, but out of concern for our firm's integrity and for the well-being of current and future employees." I attached the first 5 pages of the Harlow file, enough to show the pattern but not enough to reveal my full hand. I hit send before I could change my mind. Then I turned off my phone, closed my laptop, and finally slept for the first time in what felt like years. I woke up to 17 missed calls and 38 emails. The first call was from Darius. "Call me immediately. Something's happening with Vivica." The emails ranged from formal acknowledgments from HR to panicked messages from former colleagues in London. "What did you do?" asked Lena, my former desk mate. "Vivica's on a warpath," wrote Trent from legal. "Emergency partners meeting called for 9 a.m. London time," reported Julian, an executive assistant I'd befriended. I sat up in bed, heart hammering. I'd expected a response, but not this quickly, not this intensely. I called Darius first. "The ethics committee has received your documentation," he said without preamble. "They've asked for the complete file." I swallowed hard. "How bad is it?" "They've never convened an emergency weekend session before." His voice was carefully neutral. "This isn't just about you and Vivica anymore. The initial evidence suggests potential misrepresentation to clients. The firm could be liable." My stomach dropped. I hadn't considered that angle. I'd been so focused on Vivica that I hadn't thought about how her actions might implicate the firm. What should I do? I asked. Send them everything. All of it. And then stay quiet. He paused. Nora, are you sure about this? There's no going back. Was I sure? 5 years of my life had disappeared into Vivica Harlow's shadow. 5 years of achievements credited to someone else. 5 years of boundaries crossed and redrawn and crossed again. I'm sure, I said. I spent the next 3 hours organizing the complete Harlow file. I categorized the evidence by type: client misrepresentation, internal credit theft, manipulation of subordinates, falsification of results, and ethical breaches in client relations. I included a detailed timeline, supporting documents, emails, calendar screenshots, voice memos from meetings where she'd instructed me to alter data, just enough to make us look better. Before sending it, I added a note. I understand this documentation may have serious implications for the firm. That was never my intention. I believe in our company's stated values of integrity and respect. I am providing this information not to harm the organization, but to prevent further harm by a single individual who has repeatedly violated those values. I am willing to assist in any investigation and to answer any questions regarding this documentation. I hit send, then turned off my email notifications. I needed to clear my head. Singapore was still new to me. I walked through the busy streets, past gleaming skyscrapers and colonial buildings, through crowded hawker centers filled with the scent of chili and garlic. No one here knew me. No one was watching for my reaction. No one was waiting for me to fix their mistakes. For the first time in 5 years, I was just Nora. My phone buzzed with a text from an international number I didn't recognize. You backstabbing bitch. I made you. You would be nothing without me. I will end your career for this. Vivica had gotten a new number to bypass my block. Classic. I took a screenshot and forwarded it to HR with no comment. By Monday morning, I had been asked to join a video conference with the ethics committee. 7 stern faces looked at me from the screen. Ms. Winters, we've reviewed your documentation, said Esther Chakrabarty, the head of the committee. We'd like to ask you some questions. For the next 3 hours, they methodically walked through the Harlow file. They asked for context, for clarification, for my recollection of events. I answered everything clearly and calmly. I didn't embellish. I didn't need to. Why are you coming forward now? Asked Frederick Patel, the oldest member of the committee. I told them about the conference room incident, about the funeral, about the 23 saves. To be clear, I finished. I'm not seeking personal compensation or revenge. I simply believe the firm deserves to know the truth about a partner who has repeatedly violated our stated ethical standards. When the call ended, I felt drained but strangely peaceful. Whatever happened next was out of my hands. 3 days later, I received a call from our CEO, Margot Weathers. Nora, I wanted to speak with you personally, she said. Her Australian accent was more pronounced than usual, a sign she was stressed. The situation with Vivica has become complicated. I understand, I said, though I didn't, not really. She's threatening legal action against the firm if we proceed with any disciplinary measures. She claims your evidence is fabricated out of personal animosity. My heart sank. Of course Vivica would fight back. Of course she would try to discredit me. The documentation speaks for itself, I said. Every email can be verified through our servers. Every meeting is documented in our calendar system. Every client communication is archived. Yes, our IT team has confirmed the authenticity of your evidence, Margot said. But Vivica has considerable influence with several board members and key clients. This could get messy. I understood the subtext. Vivica was too valuable to simply cut loose, even with evidence of ethical violations. What do you need from me? I asked. Would you be willing to return to London temporarily? To participate in the formal review process? We would cover all expenses, of course. Return to London. Face Vivica directly. Subject myself to questioning, probably by people who owed their positions to her influence. When? I asked. The review begins next Monday, 3 days from now. I closed my eyes. I had thought sending the file would be enough, that justice would simply unfold without my further involvement, that I could start fresh in Singapore while Vivica faced the consequences of her actions back in London. I had been naive. "I'll be there," I said. The flight back to London gave me too much time to think. What if Vivica had already poisoned everyone against me? What if my evidence wasn't enough? What if this entire process was just a formality before dismissing my claims? I arrived at Heathrow, feeling like I was walking into a trap. Julian met me at arrivals. "God, it's good to see you," he said, hugging me tightly. "You have no idea what it's been like here." In the taxi, he filled me in. The office had essentially split into two camps, Team Vivica and Team Truth. Vivica had been placed on administrative leave pending the review, but she was still calling shots from her Notting Hill townhouse. "She's been reaching out to everyone individually," Julian said, reminding them of favors she's done, making vague threats about their futures if they support the investigation. "Sounds like Vivica," I said. "But here's the thing, she's scared. Really scared. I've never seen her like this." That night, I stayed in a hotel near our office. The firm had offered to put me up somewhere nicer, but I'd chosen this place specifically because it was where we put up visiting clients, which meant Vivica would never set foot there. At 11 p.m., my phone rang. Unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. "You could still stop this," Vivica said without preamble. Her voice was lower than usual, with a slight slur. She'd been drinking. "Hello to you too, Vivica. Do you have any idea what you've done? The clients who are threatening to leave? The partners who are questioning everything I've ever presented? That sounds like a natural consequence of your actions, not mine." She laughed bitterly. "My actions? I played the game, Nora. The same game everyone at our level plays. I just played it better." "Is that what you think this is? A game?" "Of course it's a game. And you were a willing player until you suddenly decided the rules didn't apply to you." I sat on the edge of the hotel bed. "I never agreed to your rules, Vivica. I never agreed to sacrifice my dignity, my time, my life for your advancement." "Oh, please. You benefited from our arrangement. Don't pretend you didn't." "How exactly did I benefit? By missing my mother's funeral reception? By having panic attacks in bathroom stalls? By watching you take credit for my work year after year?" There was a long pause. "What do you want?" she finally asked. "Money? A promotion? Your job back in London?" "I want you to understand what you did," I said quietly. "I want you to feel what it's like to have everything taken away by someone you trusted." "So, this is revenge." Her voice hardened. "You should know I've never lost a fight, Nora. Not once. There's a first time for everything." I hung up and blocked the number. The review process began Monday morning in a conference room I knew well, the same one where Vivica had humiliated me 6 months earlier. The symmetry wasn't lost on me. The committee consisted of 3 partners, 2 board members, our head of legal, and Margot. Vivica sat on one side with her personal attorney, a sharp-looking woman in a suit that probably cost more than my monthly rent. I sat on the opposite side with only my documentation. "We'll begin with Ms. Harlow's response to the allegations," said Lawrence Chen, the most senior partner present. For the next hour, Vivica and her attorney presented a masterful defense. They painted me as a disgruntled employee who had manipulated evidence to frame my superior after being passed over for promotion. They suggested I had actively undermined Vivica while pretending to support her. They questioned why, if these ethical breaches were so serious, I had waited 5 years to report them. I watched faces around the table. Some were nodding. Others looked uncertain. When it was my turn, I didn't try to match Vivica's polish or her attorney's legal expertise. Instead, I opened my laptop and pulled up a folder labeled Insurance Policy. I anticipated that Ms. Harlow would question the authenticity of my documentation. I began. "So, I'd like to present additional evidence that I didn't include in the Harlow file." I connected my laptop to the projector. On the screen appeared a video, one of dozens I'd recorded over the years. In the video, Vivica was clearly visible in her office. I was off camera, but my voice could be heard. The client is asking for the original data before we applied the adjustments, my voice said. Vivica rolled her eyes in the video. Just tell them the dog ate it. Or better yet, send them a new spreadsheet with different formatting so they won't notice the numbers are slightly different. But that would be you doing your job, Nora. Make this go away. I don't care how. I stopped the video and looked directly at Vivica. The color had drained from her face. I have 17 such recordings, I said calmly, all made with Ms. Harlow's knowledge and consent as part of our standard meeting documentation process. She often asked me to record our discussions about client matters so she wouldn't have to take notes. That wasn't exactly true. Vivica had known I was recording, but she'd never imagined I'd keep the recordings or use them this way. In addition, I continued, I've prepared a document detailing the financial impact of Ms. Harlow's misrepresentations to clients. Based on my calculations, her actions have put approximately $14 million in firm revenue at risk due to potential breach of contract claims. The room was absolutely silent. Vivica's attorney leaned over and whispered something in her ear. Vivica shook her head violently. Ms. Harlow, said Margot carefully, would you like to respond to this new evidence? Vivica stood up so abruptly that her chair rolled backward and hit the wall exactly as mine had done 6 months earlier. This is a setup, she hissed. She's been planning this for years, recording me, documenting everything, waiting for the perfect moment to stab me in the back. Is any of the evidence fabricated? Asked Esther from the ethics committee. Vivica's eyes darted around the room, looking for an ally, finding none. That's not the point, she insisted. The point is the context. The point is intent. The point is she's trying to destroy me out of petty jealousy. The point, I said quietly, is that you've been manipulating clients, colleagues, and subordinates for years. The evidence isn't fabricated, and you know it. Vivica turned to me, her face twisted with rage. You are nothing. Do you understand me? Nothing. You think you can take me down? I built this department. I brought in half our major clients. I'm irreplaceable. I met her gaze calmly. No one is irreplaceable, Vivica. You taught me that. The review lasted 3 more days. More evidence was presented. Clients were contacted discreetly. Former team members were interviewed. On Thursday afternoon, I was called into Margot's office. The board has reached a decision, she said. Vivica's partnership is being terminated, effective immediately. The ethics violations were too numerous and too serious to ignore. I nodded, feeling strangely hollow. This was what I had wanted, wasn't it? There's more, Margot continued. Given the nature of her misrepresentations, we've had to inform certain clients. 3 have already indicated they'll be taking their business elsewhere. I'm sorry, I said automatically. Don't be. This isn't your fault, but it does create a significant challenge for the firm. She leaned forward. We need someone who understands these client relationships. Someone who can repair the damage. I stared at her. You want me to take over Vivica's clients? Not just her clients. Her role. The board has authorized me to offer you a partnership track position, based in London or Singapore. Your choice. The irony was almost too perfect. Vivica's position. Vivica's office. Vivica's clients. I need to think about it, I said. Of course. Take the weekend. As I left the building, my phone buzzed with a text. Unknown number, but I knew who it was. This isn't over. I smiled for the first time in days and texted back. Yes, it is. You said you'd pay $100,000 to never see my face again. I took the money. I took your job. I took your reputation, and now I'm taking your clients. Deal completed. I blocked the number before she could respond. 2 days later, I accepted Margot's offer, with one condition. I would split my time between London and Singapore. I would not allow my life to be consumed by work ever again. That was 3 months ago. Since then, I've stabilized all but one of Vivica's former clients. I've built a new team one based on mutual respect and proper credit for work done. I leave the office by 6 p.m. every day. Last week, I heard Vivica took a position at a much smaller firm in Manchester. Her London townhouse is on the market. Her professional reputation is in tatters. Sometimes I wonder if I went too far, if my revenge was too complete. Then I remember the 23 times I saved her. The 5 years of my life I can never get back. The funeral reception where my family shared memories of my mother without me. And I realized this wasn't just revenge, it was justice. So that's my story. If you've ever been Vivekad, if you've ever had someone take credit for your work, undermine your confidence, or cross your boundaries, know that you don't have to accept it. Keep receipts. Document everything. And when the moment comes, stand up for yourself. Because no job, no paycheck, no professional relationship is worth your dignity or your peace of mind. If this story resonated with you, please like and subscribe to our channel. I'd really love to hear your workplace experiences in the comments. Have you ever had to stand up to a toxic boss or colleague? How did you handle it? I read every comment, and I'm creating more content about navigating difficult workplace situations and building healthy boundaries. Remember, you are irreplaceable. Your work has value, and no one has the right to make you feel otherwise.